I mean, it feels really quick. It's hilarious.
Fast.
Let's hit $9 grand on the tag here. Let's see. Bring it down. Okay, take it to 9. Let's see. $9 grand. Wow. That goes great. Look at that. It's full. Welcome to an episode of J. Lo's Garage. To the car we're featuring today, well, you try to figure out what it is. Because you don't see them here in the United States, but you start seeing more and more of them now that we can import them because they're 25 years old. We have that rule here in the United States. It comes from Japan. It's right-hand drive. You know, the whole category of cars in Japan, under, I think they call them K cars, not like what we have for K cars, not those Chrysler things. These are cars 600 cc's or less. They're obviously small. They're sort of commuter vehicles, city vehicles. This one here belongs to a young engineer named Ashley DeLuca, who imported it from Japan. Ashley, come on in. Good to see you.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming.
Hi, thanks.
Now tell me, what kind of automotive engineer are you?
Mechanical engineer.
Okay.
So.
And what kind of work do you do? Do you superchargers, turbochargers, stuff like that?
So when I bought this car, I was working as a turbocharger engineer, doing project engineering, kind of design work, testing for turbochargers in the US and Japan.
Okay. And you speak Japanese?
Not really, enough to get by.
Oh, okay, cool.
So.
But you lived in Japan for what, a year?
A little over 6 months.
Oh, okay, okay. And what, did you just fall in love with these when you saw them on the street over there?
So a couple of years ago, I ended up getting an opportunity to move to Japan for my job, and basically I went out there and I bought the car within, a week of living out there. So.
Okay, before we go any further, tell us exactly what it is. Is a Mazda Suzuki deal? Is that what it is? What is it called?
Yeah, so the car is an AutoZam AZ1.
AutoZam?
AutoZam. So,
AZ1.
Correct.
Okay.
So AutoZam is a sub-brand of Mazda, kind of like the relationship between Scion and Toyota, I guess.
Okay.
AutoZam was the small car, dealer name for Mazda, where they sold all their K cars and small displacement cars.
And why were you so into Mazdas? Did you have Mazdas here?
So yeah, I actually, I have a Miata, and I used to have an RX-7, and I race, and the Miata was kind of the first car. It's a, good car to kind of get into racing. It's inexpensive, and it's...
I got to ask you, why did you sell the RX-7? That's a great car.
I bought that car from the original owner, and it had been sitting for 5 or 6 years, not driven at all. So if that was my only project car, it would have been a car I would have kept, but it was just so much maintenance, so much to get the car up to a good running standard that
Right. Well, I love Mazda. I got an RX-8 and I got my Cosmo. Did you see my Cosmo over there?
I did see your Cosmo.
We put a 12A engine in that one.
Oh, cool.
So it's about 200 horse now. Got a Weber carburetor on it. It's fabulous to drive. I just love them.
Yeah.
Did you see many of those in Japan when you were there?
I did see a lot. I went to a Cosmo Sport Owners Club in Hiroshima last year, and Fuji Speedway, and we got to do a parade lap. I got to ride in.
Oh, is that right?
One of the Cosmo Sport, took it around the track with an owner and took tons of pictures. They're great cars, and there's a huge rotary backing, in Japan. The people that have rotaries are huge enthusiasts.
And that Fuji Speedway, I was fortunate enough. I got to drive the LFA. I always thought they were okay. I drove one here once, and they couldn't get up to speed. But with that V10, that thing hits 9 grand. Oh my God, it's the best sounding engine, and just coming down the Fuji straightaway. It was just fantastic. It was pretty exciting.
Yeah, they had an exhibition for some of the older, historic racing cars. So they had the 787B and all of that. They had all those, do sound tests and stuff down the front straight, and everyone's filming it and stuff. So
That's great, because there's only like a half a dozen Cosmos in the United States. So there might be more. How many did you see? Like at the Owners Club, how many show up? Is it like 100, 200?
No, not that amount. People had to drive all of their cars there. People don't really tow them out to the events. So I think maybe around 15, 20 showed up.
Oh, that's pretty good.
So it was a pretty good turnout.
Are most of them white with the check interior like mine?
Yeah, so most of them were white. There was one maroon one, and then there was a couple like very light baby blue colored Cosmo Sports. So.
Oh, cool. Well, let's get back to this. So this is a Mazda Suzuki. Now, why didn't Mazda builds engines? Why didn't they just put their own engine in their car?
Suzuki had already been making this motor. The same motor for this car was used in the Suzuki Cappuccino as well as the AltaWorks.
Okay.
And so I guess they just decided to do a collaboration between the two. They had been working on the concept for this for a few years before they actually ended up putting it into production. So I guess between them making the motor and Mazda wanting to make a weird, quirky car, it kind of, came to fruition.
Three-cylinder?
Three-cylinder, yeah.
Three-cylinder, 600 cc.
Yeah, 660. It's a little under 660 cc,
Oh, okay.
turbocharged.
And what are we looking at? Maybe 52 horsepower? 55?
64.
Oh, 64. Well, that's
Yes.
pretty good. And what does it weigh?
So it weighs a little over 1,500 pounds. I think it's 1,584 pounds
It's
is
gonna
what
move
they...
along pretty good. Because
Yeah.
it's like you smile, you say, this quirky little car. But in Japan, it's not really seen that way. It's just seen as, it's not really a little, do they
Yeah,
see it
it's-
as a tiny car too?
They
as we do?
Yeah, so they see it as a tiny car. People don't really look at it the same way people look at it
Right.
here, just because there are a lot of, equivalently sized cars, but people are paying attention a lot more for small cars in Japan too when you're driving around.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's great looking. It's kind of cool looking. Did they ever make an open version, a roadster version?
They did not. So initially at the Tokyo Motor Show, I believe, they ended up having 3 versions released when they kind of debuted the car. There was an A, B, C version. There was different things about each of them. I think the A version had pop-up headlights. The B version was a little bit more sport-oriented, and then the C version looked like a, like a prototype race car or something like that. And even though the C version car got the most popular feedback, the A version was what they ended up putting into production, and they took out the pop-up headlights in it.
It has kind of an MR2 Fiat X19 look to it, doesn't it? I mean, with these grills
The
back
side
here,
vents, yeah.
And it doesn't look like a 25-year-old car.
It doesn't.
No, it looks contemporary, especially the front. And the tires are meaty-looking tires. They're pretty good-sized tires for such a small engine. I thought it would have, like Prius small tires.
I mean, these are 13 by 5.5. Even though they look big on this car, they're still really tiny.
Well, I know the tire, but I mean, but it's a wide tire.
Yeah, they are. They are.
Yeah. And it looks fairly roomy for the side. And these are like a gull wing door, aren't they?
They are.
So that's kind of cool. Yeah, I think it's a neat looking car. Now, what would you pay for something like this in Japan, and like in American money when you bought it? How much? Can I ask you how much it was?
Yeah, so when I bought the car 2.5 years ago, I paid equivalent, it was $7,100.
Well, it's not bad at all.
So yeah, and then plus around $4,000 to import it.
Yeah.
So, and then maintenance.
Because in Japan, they don't really like older cars on the road. I think.
No.
I mean, the older your car is, the more you pay. Like here, the older your car is, the less you pay. But they want old cars off the road, don't they? So
Yeah.
they just want to get this stuff out of the country.
Yeah, basically when you register these cars, you end up having to pay a recycle fee when you purchase them. So, in 5 years, that's like kind of a standard time that you own a car in Japan. When you're done, recycle it, and it's
Wow.
done. Off your hands, new car.
I know it's funny because you'd think, I mean, it's in such beautiful shape, you'd think you'd be rewarded for taking care of it and not getting a new car.
Yeah.
But
Not the case, really.
Yeah.
Luckily for the smaller displacement cars, they're a little bit less expensive to
Yeah.
keep longer, but for the white plate or like the higher displacement cars over 660 cc, that gets expensive.
And automatic transmission? Oh, it's a manual
Manual
transmission.
transmission.
How many speeds?
5-speed.
5-speed transmission, okay. And you mentioned before, you said there was a governor. They put a governor on the engines on these?
Yeah, so the car came with a speed governor on it, so you couldn't go over 130 kilometers per hour, which is a little over, I think it's like 84 miles an hour.
Okay.
And so that was like one of the first things to go when I got the car.
Well, what kind of speed can it get to? Can you hit 100 in one of these?
You can.
You can?
I think that's about where the car, I mean, to be totally honest, I don't know how fast it goes because the speedometer only goes up to 140 kilometers per hour.
okay,
So
okay.
you're just kind of pegged over,
Well, use your cell phone. Use your GPS on
Yeah,
your cell phone.
that's
You
true.
could. Okay, now tell me, now you have 2 gauges there. Are those aftermarket or those factory?
They're aftermarket.
Oh,
So there's a
okay.
boost gauge and a temp gauge.
Oh, okay. And it's turbocharged,
It
right?
is.
Okay.
The turbo's like the size of my fist. It's super small.
Yeah. Well, the engine's not much bigger, too. And it's obviously runs on premium fuel, right?
It does.
And how much does gas cost in Japan? I'm curious.
Yeah, they sell it by liters
So
there.
how much a liter?
I can't remember at the time.
Was it? I mean, did you find it way more expensive?
No, no, not at all.
Really?
This car only has a 6-gallon tank, so
That's
when you
funny.
go to fill it up, I never paid more than like $20 to fill the car
okay.
up. So
Okay. And what kind of mileage do you get? That's,
this gets the best mileage out of any car that I own right now. It gets somewhere around 40 mpg highway.
Wow.
A little over 40.
very good.
And high 30s, you know, driving around town.
Is it disc brakes all the way around, drums in the back? What is it?
Yeah, I think it's disc all around.
Okay.
So.
Well, it's a great looking. I mean, I think it's great. And from the back, the taillights actually make it look like a big car. I mean, it looks like a full-size taillights in the back there. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I think they had to make them higher so people can actually, you know,
Yeah,
see
yeah.
that you're driving the car around.
Now in Japan, they don't have the third brake light, do they? Or is it in there somewhere?
Yeah, there is a third brake light. It kind of sits right up in here.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
the back has like a really bad tint on it.
Right, right. Would you get a lot of looks driving this around? Do people go, what? You must get stopped on every, besides being an attractive person and you're driving an unusual car, people must just bother you all day long with this thing.
It's one of two things. You know, I get a lot of people that are coming up and then they walk over and they're like, what the heck is this thing? I've never seen anything like it before. Or you get people that, you know, they know what it is and then they kind of geek out like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I didn't know that anybody had any of these here. It's so great.
Well, I know I've seen Nissan makes the Figaro. Is that the one I think of?
Yeah.
And then there's the Cappuccino. This seems like the sportiest. The other ones seem like little shopping cars or something. You know what I mean? I mean, it just seems like, yeah, this seems like it could be kind of a sporty car. You can actually even race something like this, couldn't you?
Yes, and I have. I have
Okay.
tracked the car before. The other two are pretty, you know, they're all kind of equivalent when they released the Honda Beat, the Suzuki Cappuccino, and the AZ1. All came out at the same time. They were all direct competitors to each other.
Yeah.
So, but this one, you know, obviously this is the one that I fell in love with. It's, in my opinion, it's been a great track car. I took it out to some of the local tracks in Japan.
Right.
I took it to Fuji, Tsukuba, Sotogara, Forest Raceway. You know, all the little, they have a lot of little tracks in
Right,
Japan,
right.
and you know, that's kind of where this car shines. Is, you know, the smaller, lower speed tracks. I took this to Laguna Seca earlier this year, and
yeah?
it was a blast to drive it. But you know, you're just pegged in fifth like
Right.
the whole time you're driving it. So.
And you have a full complement of, you got air conditioning, and you have electric windows? Oh, you got manual
The other
windows.
manual windows.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it has air conditioning,
It
right?
does have air conditioning.
Yeah, yeah. I think it doesn't look that. Are you cramped in there? Have you got plenty of room?
I'm personally not cramped because
Yeah.
I'm 5'4",
Right.
but most of my friends are taller than me, and it's not necessarily the headroom that gets you; it's the legroom.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
Well, I think it's just fantastic. Can we see the engine? Can we open that up?
Yeah, the hood release is on the other side.
Okay, go
right-hand
ahead.
drive.
Oh, I love the way it opens.
So.
Oh, leave it up. I love
okay.
it. It's kind of like,
Put the hood prop up. There you go.
oh, so the engine's in front of the axle. That's good. So it's almost mid-engine, isn't it?
It is mid-engine, rear-wheel drive.
Yeah.
So all the snap oversteer.
Yeah, I think it's really cool.
So yeah, it's a 3-cylinder, fuel-injected, turbocharged. It makes about 63 foot-pounds of torque,
Okay.
64 horsepower.
And how many valves per cylinder, do you know?
I think it's got 4 valves per cylinder.
Okay.
So.
Cool.
Performance.
Yeah. Well, it's true. And they got this brace across here that the Fords used to call it the Monte Carlo bar when they had that on the Ford Falcons. That's what I always call it. Then people comment, they don't call it Monte Carlo bar anymore. You're old. Well, I am old, and that's what we called it back in the 60s. Like your dad smiling over there. He remembers the Monte Carlo bar. That was the brace across. That's what I always call it. Now, I imagine they're probably getting every ounce of power out of this motor. There's probably not much you can do to it, right? I mean, have you left it stock? Have you modified anything?
So I've left everything pretty stock in the car, other than just general maintenance. There are options to upgrade it. A lot of people that have these cars do end up doing like a turbo swap on it.
Oh, bigger
Or-
turbo?
Yeah, bigger turbo. You know, you can upgrade like the exhaust manifold, stuff like that. There's actually an access hatch inside the car that you can unbolt, and then you can get to the back side of the motor. So it's a lot easier to do maintenance, and you can get to the turbo and everything from you know, the inside of the car, which
Sure,
is
sure. Have you had any problems with it?
I haven't had too much problem. Just so sometimes with these cars, the sender wires for the starters kind of break down over time.
Oh, okay.
So I did end up having to create like a little relay to power the sender wire to make sure it starts every time. I did get stranded a couple times in Japan.
Oh, okay. And how many miles on this one?
So it has about 120,000 kilometers on it right now.
Oh, it's about 65,000 miles?
Yeah, so a little over 65,000.
Oh, okay, wow. I mean, it looks great.
Yeah, and this is considered old to them too. It's 65,000 miles. Like, oh my gosh, this car's junk. Just
I know it's
get
funny.
rid of it.
I've got a 68 Mercedes over there, 325,000 miles. It runs fine.
Yeah.
There's this myth that's left over from I think the 1950s and 60s when we didn't have modern oils and things where, 70,000 miles of cars were wiped out, it's no good. I mean, BMWs, Mercedes, they run hundreds and hundreds of thousands, and especially Japanese stuff.
Yeah, their stuff lasts some of the longest, and they want to get rid of it,
I mean, I meet motorcycle guys with 150,000 miles and stuff on their bikes, and it's pretty amazing. And I like the fact that the horsepower and the torque rating are just about the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And the side vents are actually, they're actually used.
They're functional, huh?
Yeah, the intercooler sits right behind the side vent and the intakes on the other side, so you do actually get some airflow going.
And what's an
through.
oil change in this? 2 quarts? 3 quarts maybe?
Yeah, it's really small. You only go through like one or two quarts.
Yeah.
And
it's really great. It's so funny that these never caught on here. Well, I guess this doesn't have all the safety equipment and all that stuff, does it? No.
Yeah, so that's the whole thing with the 25-year rule, right? So this would never, ever pass safety standards in the United States.
Right.
There's really no impact zone on this car. If you get hit, you're toast.
So you're in it for about 11 or 12?
Yeah, the price has gone up a lot since
Yeah.
these have turned 25 years old. So the cars themselves are kind of selling in Japan for 10 to 15,000 right now.
Okay.
So.
But there must be must be some Japanese business guy just rounding these up and just selling them here in the States, I imagine.
Yeah, there's a lot of import companies that have kind
Yeah.
of popped up in the last couple years and
Cool. Well, I think it's
making a business out of it.
fantastic. Can we open the front? What do you have in the front?
So the front, you would think it's storage. It's not. It's basically there's just a spare tire in there.
Oh,
That's where the
okay.
horn is and like the master cylinder.
Oh,
so
okay.
we can take a look at it. The
Yeah,
hood.
let's right here. Yeah, not a lot of trunk room there. And
Yeah,
what is-
basically all that they put in here was a spare tire, and I do have upgraded horns in here.
Okay.
So
It's
as
just-
people are going to run me over, they.
Is this a spare tire bag?
Yeah. So basically, what happened in Japan when they released this car, I think between when the car was approved and when the car was getting released, they realized having a spare tire directly in the front is not very safe. So. They ended up releasing, an announcement that they would like you to take the tire out of the front and put it into the back in this bag.
Oh, okay. And I like what it say. It says, exciting dual overhead cam turbo, midship dual overhead cam turbo, exciting micro coupe. Why is it in English if this is a...
They love putting stuff in English.
Oh, because it seems exotic.
Adjectives, yeah.
Well, we do that here, like the Maserati quadruport. Everybody says it sounds... All it means is 4-door.
Yeah.
I mean, it just means
Exactly.
4-door, but quadruport sounds so much exciting. So I guess in Japan, and I like that they say it's exciting. See, if you didn't know the car is exciting, well, they tell
You
you
have this
right
bag
there.
to remind you.
Yeah, the bag to remind you that it's an exciting car to drive. Very cool. Yeah, there is, boy, there's not much room in there at all, is there?
So, I mean, you could take the spare tire out, I guess, and put half of a grocery bag in here.
Right. And of course, the same brace you have in the rear, you have here.
Yep.
It almost looks aftermarket. Is that an aftermarket piece?
So this particular one is aftermarket.
Okay.
There was a Mazda Speed version of this car that they released towards the end of the production for it, and they did have a Mazda Speed specific front strut brace and one in the rear as well.
So if you bought, let's say, the stripper version of this in Japan, it would not have this?
Correct.
Okay, I see. But yet it's drilled for it, and everything's there.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, very cool. Very cool.
So.
I think we're about ready to take this thing for a ride. Can we do that?
Yeah, no problem.
Do you think I'll fit in it?
It's debatable. Everybody.
I'm up for it. Cool. Okay, let's see what the trick is here. Actually, it's pretty easy to get in with these gull-wing doors.
It's like trying
Actually,
to...
it's like my gull-wing. My old Mercedes. It gets its foot in here. Oh, okay. Not bad.
Do you fit?
Yeah, I fit fine. Start her up. Plenty of room. Oh, the pattern goes the other way. No, straight back.
Yeah, first is all the way to the left.
Yeah, okay. That's second. There we go. It goes good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty quick. It
It is
feels
pretty quick. It feels quick, and that's really the whole thing.
Yeah, this is one of those cars when you're driving it and you're like, wow, I'm going so fast. And then you look at your tachometer and you're like, oh, I'm going maybe 40.
Right, exactly. But it's really, I think this is really cool. I would buy one of these.
Yeah, they're seriously an absolute blast. I have enjoyed every minute of owning this car, driving it around. It's great doing, any mountain driving, tight roads.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's fairly easy to work on. It's not all electronics.
Yeah, there's really not that much. There's not much to it, to be totally honest. Everything's manual. All the stuff is fairly easy to get to. I was thinking it was going to be really difficult to work on because the car is so small, but
right.
I haven't had any issues working on anything so far, especially with the access hatch for the engine that's behind the driver's seat.
Right.
The seat comes out 4 volts. 14s, just pull it out. It's super easy to get to the hatch. So then you can work on your motor in your car with the doors closed.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic. So who would the market be for this car in Japan? Would it be like millennials, young men and women out of college, no family? Obviously, you can't carry more than one. You couldn't carry one person and even a small child in this thing. Right?
Yeah, you're allowed to have, a grocery bag, maybe,
right.
if you're lucky. I think they kind of made the car maybe for obviously the younger generation, but it's just supposed to be like a city car. So maybe like a weekend car or, commuter car for, someone that's like a working professional, young working professionals.
Yeah.
They really narrowed down their target demographics for this thing.
Yeah.
It, doesn't really appeal to the masses, I could imagine. And you can't really go on long trips because there's nowhere to put luggage.
Right. Well, it's like having a F40 Ferrari or something. You can't go anywhere in that either. So.
Yeah. But the price point for this was also a lot more attainable than an F40 Ferrari.
Exactly. And I love the fact that it's only a 6-gallon gas tank.
Yep.
That's hilarious.
The only bad thing is when you go to fill up gas in the United States here, the shape of the actual gas pump is a lot different than it is in Japan. So you have to like stand there awkwardly and hold it because you can't just let it go.
Right. But then you only have to fill 6 gallons, so that's not
that's true.
I mean, it feels really quick. It's hilarious.
It feels fast.
Yeah.
And you get that instant torque feeling, when you get on the gas from the turbo, like it all kind of kicks in all at the same time.
No, it's certainly a lot of fun to drive. And your red line is 9,000. That's kind of Ferrari-like.
9,000 RPM.
Yeah.
That goes to 11, and you really feel when you have a lot of weight in the car too,
Yeah, like me.
If you have 2 people in here versus 1 person, you do feel it though a lot. And more than you would in other cars.
I'm like a third the weight of the car. Now, when you had this in Japan, did you park on the street? Did you have to buy a parking space? How's that work?
So when I was living in Japan, I actually had 2 cars. I had a company car and I had this car. So I ended up renting an extra parking space in my apartment
Oh,
to put
okay.
this. And then when I ended up leaving and I ended up storing it there for about a year, there's actually a parking lot that a bunch of AZ1 owners all store their cars in because they don't have extra parking spaces at their apartments. So there's about 5, 6 AZ1s that all park their cars in this one lot. So I joined in on that and gave one of the owners my key and said start it up once a month. And you know, he took it out and took all these pictures of it every time he took it out.
And where does the name AZ, what does that mean? What does it signify? Any idea?
I have no idea.
It just sounds American. I mean, it's American letters, AZ.
Yeah. I mean, they ended up renaming a lot of the cars that they sell in the U.S. there.
Yeah.
So
It's funny because when I was a kid, Japanese cars in America had Japanese names. The Lilac, the Fair Lady.
Yeah.
You know, they had very flowery Japanese garden kind of names, which didn't. And then a guy named Mr. K told them the Americans like Z, X. So now it sounds like they're going to American names, AZ1. I mean, that sounds like ZR1. You know, it sounds like very English style.
So they actually, the AutoZam brand sold MX3s there as an AZ3. I don't know why they changed all the nomenclature around. It's weird. But they also ended up selling this under the Suzuki brand name for a limited run of cars, like around 400 or 500 cars. They called that the Suzuki Kara, and it's the exact same car as this, but it has like a different bumper on it.
Right.
So, and different badging, obviously.
No, I think it's a lot of fun. I love this stuff. Like I said, I got my 64 Honda 600, and that thing is fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's overhead cam, roller bearing crank, revs to 9,500 RPM. If it said Porsche instead of Honda, it'd be $1 million car. You know?
Totally. This car originally, like on the market, new from dealership, was like around $12,500.
That's not bad at all.
It's really inexpensive, considering what you're getting for your money.
Yeah, I mean, it's very sophisticated. It's not like it's some old push rod flathead engine.
Exactly.
I mean, 3 cylinders, 4 valve per cylinder, turbo, and it goes. Look at that.
It's got quick handling like a go-kart, kind of, huh?
I mean, it really does. It really does. Let's hit $9 grand on the tag here. Let's see. Bring it down. Okay, let's take it to 9. Let's see. That's $9 grand. Wow. That goes great. Look at that. It's full. It really is a lot of fun to drive. I wonder if small electric versions of this have replaced the K cars, the 600cc version. You know what I mean?
I think they're starting to come out with some stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they're starting to, kind of recreate some of like the older K cars. Like Honda came out with like the S660, like a modern version, that's like a 2014, 2015.
Right.
But man, I feel like I've sat in one of those cars, it's really tiny.
Yeah.
Like it's more cramped, I feel like, than the interior of this car is. When this car was built, it was just a really great time that they'd kind of just let the engineers go haywire, right? Like, go for it. We just want you guys to make a cool car. Like, I would have given anything to be on a project like this, as an engineer. This is like your dream, right? You're like given the freedom to do anything you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Make some weird, funky gull-wing door car. It's got turbochargers. Like, just go for it.
Did anybody ever try to sneak bigger engines into one of these? Did you ever see that in Japan?
Everyone always jokes about Hayabusa swapping these, but Hayabusa swapping these.
Oh yeah.
And putting like a liter motor in or something.
Right.
There's room for it, but and there are a few cars that run around in Japan that have over 200 horsepower in these, and me personally, I feel like this car would be really unmanageable if you put that much power into it, because it really wasn't meant to be going that fast.
Right, yeah.
It was, it's already a handful, and it's got 64 horsepower now, so it does get kind of unstable. Not completely unstable, but when you're at like high speeds on the freeway, the car just bounces around,
Well, that's probably why they have the governor on there, isn't it?
Yeah, that too, probably.
You go to New York, even LA, you get tiny apartments and big money. How big was your place in Japan?
I actually had a really good-sized apartment in Japan.
Really?
Because I lived in the countryside. So
Oh, okay.
I lived in Honjo, Saitama, which is like, it's like really rural, I guess. Like, you know, when you tell people that over there, they're like, wow, it's in the middle of nowhere. Why do you live there?
Yeah.
But that was where our plant was. It was in Kodama. So
Right.
apartments out there, like I had a 2-bedroom apartment, parking spot, 2 bedrooms. It had a small little living room and a kitchen, and you know, a hallway with some like cabinets and stuff to put, you know, storage and bedding and stuff.
Right.
And I think it was like $400 a month or $450
Really?
a
That's
month.
all?
Yeah. No one wants to live in the countryside.
Wow, I guess nobody wants to be in Tokyo. How far outside Tokyo were you?
About an hour, 40-minute drive.
Oh,
west,
that's a long
so,
way, yeah.
Yeah, but on the Shinkansen it was only like 40 minutes, so
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
get into Tokyo really quick.
So any of your Japanese car friends going to come to America to visit you that haven't been here?
I've had a few friends come visit.
Yeah.
Most of my Japanese car friends come out for 7 stock. A huge group of rotary people come out for 7 stock.
Okay, what is that? I don't know that one. Go ahead. It's called what?
7 stock.
7 stock.
Yeah, it's put on by Mazda.
Right.
It's at usually at Fontana at the California Speedway.
Oh, okay.
It's just a huge rotary festival. Mazda comes out, brings a bunch of different cars.
You know, I got to go to that. I got to bring my Cosmo there.
Yeah, they would love it. Everybody would, you know, freak out. But they always have like a whole group of people come out from Japan every year for that event. So
It's really not much different than a Lamborghini Miura to drive. I mean, size-wise inside. Actually, well, thanks for bringing this by. It's really exciting. I love that you're an engineer and you work in the car business and you race it and you use it, and it's great. I mean, this is real, not real expensive way to go racing. I mean, it's fantastic.
it's a great track car, a great, you know, fun car to put around town with.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, and nobody sees them. It's a real attention getter. I wouldn't mind finding one of these. So thanks a lot.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, cool. See you guys next week.
Mm-hmm.